the clear and obvious understanding that this comes from evolution. The belief we'll go back to the feminists, is that this is some sort of nefarious patriarchy where we created these beauty standards specifically to chastise women. When you can explain these things through evolution, then it kind of throws a lot of like basic feminist dogma out the window. And so that's the reason why, like, it's really weird. So Dr. David Buss should have won a Nobel Prize for his 1989 study on 37 different cultures, but he'll never win a Nobel Prize because evolutionary psychology is like, it's an explanation of how we were as cave people. And that includes our proclivities for, like, sexual aggression, and why people are tribalistic, which can lead to racism, stuff like that. Why people are believe in heuristics, or why people are so obsessed with status. Where do these things come from? Well, they come from our ancestors. And when you look at that, it doesn't fit with a very woke egalitarian narrative that a lot of people want to fit into the world today. So the people on the left don't like evolutionary psychology because it has a clear definition for gender roles. Previously, like 50,000 years ago. It doesn't mean there have to be gender roles today. You can do whatever you want today. But our ancestors were not confused about the gender roles. Our ancestors did not have the man picking berries while the woman hunted. That just didn't happen. Extremely rare that would happen. Maybe the man was injured or something. And so the people on the left don't like evolutionary psychology because of the explanation of gender roles. The people on the right don't like evolutionary psychology because they don't like the concept of evolution. They don't like the idea that we are the descendants of a primate, which we are. We are hairless murder apes. And I will tell you guys something else. When you give into this idea that we're hairless murder apes and that we're just a product of 178 million years of mammalian evolution, you really and then you take that hypothesis and then you just look at the world, everything makes sense.
Yeah.
Everything makes sense. Why she stood you up, why that other dude, why these people watch this advertisement, why this guy made so much money, why this sales technique works, why this guy wanted to work for you, why this guy quit, why this guy cheated on you. All of it makes sense when you just look at the world through the lens of evolutionary psychology. And by the way, it's 100 for 100. I've never seen it wrong. Not one time have I ever seen a concept where I was like, this doesn't make sense in the concept of evolution. Nothing. Absolutely. Because anything that is pervasive amongst Homo sapiens must exist somewhere in the realm of evolution.
Didn't Kanazawa, Asian American evolutionary psychologist, get canceled for some of his research? Didn't they remove Satoshi Kanazawa? They took his tenure back, right? Or something like that?
Yeah, so it's really funny. He was maybe a decade ahead of his time. If he tried to do that now, he'd be fine. I think he'd be a huge social media celebrity. Basically, Satoshi Kanazawa was trying to be what GADSAT is now. But he just really got hit by the woke mob before there was a woke mob. That our proclivities come from our ancestors' desires for certain things. So our ancestors who chose to mate with people who had unsymmetrical faces and were morbidly overweight, those did not bear them healthy children, and therefore those children did not have children. But our ancestors who looked for a girl with a fat ass and nice tits and had a pretty face, right, and signs of youth, those ancestors who mated with women who looked like that were far more likely to have children. What happens is that cycle happens over time and time again, and then men have preferences for certain attributes with women, which would include like a 0.7 hip to waist ratio, signs of youth, signs of facial symmetry, clear skin, things like agreeableness. These things come from evolutionary psychology, and women are far more concerned in every society with a man's ability to procure resources and his shoulder to waist ratio and his masculine signs on his face or whatever. Women are not concerned if a man has a scar on his face, not anywhere near to the point where men are concerned when it comes to women. So because of that, we see that where these proclivities come from. And instead of one of my favorite things, it's a book by GADSAT. I believe it's The Parasitic Mind. He goes into this conversation where the idea of pornography and the idea of strip clubs were created specifically to persecute women. And then it was Dr. Sad clearly said, it's like, then what are gay strip clubs for?
Yeah.
No, it's like men go to strip clubs to look at a variety of sexual partners, if they're gay or straight. It has nothing to do with the patriarchy. And basically, I ask women, how much do they think the average man in America makes? And they say $70,000, $150,000. It's like, no, it's $39,000 a year. And they're like, what? That's the average man makes that much. And you're like, how tall is the average guy? They're like 6'2", 6'3". I'm like, no, he's 5'9". Then they're like, what? They don't understand. And then we start asking them to describe their perfect man. And of course, their perfect man, you guys know, he's 6'1". He makes $150,000 a year.
6'6",
he's not obese.
Right?
He's not obese. He's never been married. Blah blah blah. And I go over all these demographics, and he's like somewhere between 25 and 45 years old. So I take these demographics, I put them into a U.S. Census calculator, and we try to figure out how many men are like that. And it's like 0.02% of men are in that category, and the women are like, what? It's like, yes. Yeah, every time you've had sex with one of those guys, just know he's sleeping with like 7 other girls.
And then
they don't understand.
They present themselves and they make up 20 to 50% of it and think there's some kind of exclusion, right?
We do the opposite. Yeah. So for instance, because the 3 of us most likely do not care about a woman's income or height. And so because we don't care about income or height, the number of women that we have to choose from is like 14 to 17 to 20% of the population, where they have to choose from 0.2% of the population.
Yeah.
And that's why you see a large, like a small group of men at the top that have like 100. There's multiple studies. You have to put this all together, but one study that shows that men under the age of 30, about 26% of them are virgins. The average man in the United States has had something like 5 or 6 sexual partners in his whole life. So from 0 to 26, we'll just say 0. I'm extrapolating here. From 0 to 26, we're ranking men by body count. From 0 to 26, the first 26 percentile, they're at 0. When we get to the 50th percentile, they're at 5. And then when we get to the top 5% over here, they're at 150. So like for men, it goes like this, and then it goes whoop. That's what body count looks like for men. For women, it's way more linear.
You're talking about this. This is evolutionary psychology, and probably the most prominent person right now is Dr. David Buss, right? And I think you might have had him on your show, right? And I think he has mentioned that evolutionary psychology is probably one of the easiest sciences to disprove. However, to this date, no one was able to do that.
Correct. Yeah. The term is falsifiable. Astrology is not falsifiable. Right. If I go to astrologer and be like, hey, just let you know, we've done these studies and we've shown that like Aries and Gemini just don't get along, or they do get along, and there's no correlation with reality whatsoever. They're like, no, but you don't understand. You have to look at this and this with the air sign and blah, blah, blah. There's so much bullshit. Numerology is the same way. There's always an escape route, so it's not falsifiable. Because evolutionary psychology is so psychology is not what's considered a hard science. Psychology is like tendencies. Like for instance, Sigmund Freud, great mind, terrific author, but he made a lot of hypotheses that turned out to be incorrect. When you look at that situation with Freud, you say, well, it's not a hard science. It turns out he believed that homosexuality came from the fact that children were stuck in a phallic state around the age of 12, and because they never got out of it, they became gay. Whatever. Turns out none of that was true. But so because of that, because it's a lot of hypotheses that weren't really tested, it's considered a soft science. A hard science would be like physics. What happened was in the 1970s, somebody just finally grew a ball sack and said, hey, why don't we just test some of these theories that we have, like hard science? And they did so. I think the term originally was sociobiology, and then later on they called it evolutionary psychology, which is a derivative of evolutionary biology. Evolutionary biology is the clear and obvious concept that natural selection is the reason why everything from the neck down happens for Homo sapiens. We have opposable thumbs because we're supposed to use tools. We walk in a bipedal manner so that we were long distance hunters. We have sweat glands because we're long distance hunters. We have kneecaps in our knees. I don't know, some primates don't have kneecaps because we were supposed to walk up and down for long distances. And we have a ball and socket joint so that we could throw objects overhand, so to like throw spears. Well, obviously Homo sapiens were evolved to be long distance hunters. Homo sapiens can walk longer distances than almost any mammal on the planet. So we knew that, but the concept of natural selection for the head from the neck up was sort of ignored because of things like religion. Right? Religion was like, no, our brain is created and it was destined by God. And there's like, no, the reality of the situation is natural selection includes the brain as well. And a lot of people don't like that idea because what does that mean? Does that mean we have free will? It means we don't have free will.
That 100% makes sense, because that has happened to me. Yeah. You kind of, when you come in, you're a liberal, you're okay with the situation. And then there's a time when you're like, I don't understand what's going on. Like, the world is changing and I don't get this. Like, this makes no sense.
Your ideologies didn't. The scales did.
Like, the scales changed. Like, for instance, the concept of like a man and two men getting married, if they want to be happy and do that, it didn't make any difference to me. I would say like 25 years ago, like say I was 20 years old. Okay, they want to get married. That's fine. I don't really have an issue with that. Is it offensive to my religious beliefs as a Protestant? Not really. They're just not getting married in my church. So I'm like barely to the right of center. And the reason why I'm right of center is because I was left of center 20 years ago, but the world has gotten so far left that I'm just like, I've kept my values. And as the world shifted left and I was just left behind, I just became a conservative. Good neighbors make good fences. I don't give a fuck. Or good fences make good neighbors. They can do their thing. I can do mine. It made no difference to me. And then the concept of like, I'd be around guys who grew up in a really neighborhood. So I watched racial profiling amongst police department because I lived in Dallas, Texas, which is the most segregated city in America. Let me say that again. Dallas, Texas is the most segregated city in America. Not Jackson, Mississippi, not Atlanta, Georgia. It is Dallas, Texas. There was specific redlining that happened in that city where black people lived in certain neighborhoods and white people lived in others, and that has not changed in the last 50 years. And so I would go to my friend's place and like down like Martin Luther King and X-Line, like in South Dallas. And it was very clear to me that the police treated my friends who did nothing wrong very differently than they treated me. It was real, and I saw it with my own eyes. And so for me, I was like, well, I kind of believed in an egalitarian nature. I believe we needed to stop police brutality. I didn't like the idea of like property taxes paying for public education, because it just caused poor people to go to poor schools and then continue the cycle of poverty. So these things I understood. So I was a bit of a political progressive. And then the world changed. And then all of a sudden, like, we're teaching 9-year-olds to change their gender. And I was like, stop, just stop. What the stop? This is ridiculous. This is absurd. And then it was like the denial of science was something that was exclusive to the right, because they believed in the Bible. And then what happened was, when we started getting into gender politics, now the denial of science is on the left. The left is now denying science. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And then things just got really weird. And I was like, no, I'm a conservative now. Like, apparently I'm a conservative just because I believe in God. Therefore, as long as you allow me to worship in freedom, like our forefathers intended, then I'm good. Again, you guys know the neighborhoods in Texas that have the lowest crime rate. Do you know what these neighborhoods have in common?
Were they religious?
No. The households own 2 or more firearms. In neighborhoods where households legally own 2 or more firearms, the crime rate is 0. Guys, good fences make good neighbors. Understanding boundaries is what makes the world work. Does that make sense? I love my neighbors. I just don't need them to watch me take a poop. You know, like where there needs to be boundaries. And so when you understand these boundaries, then everything's fine. I am for everyone being able to do anything they want, as long as you are not like defaming people or touching kids. Then do whatever you want. I really don't care. Okay.